Now that we have created our first Xamarin application, it's time for us to familiarize ourselves with how the project is structured. Throughout the course, we're going to take a look in more detail at folders and certain files. Right now, let's just take a look at the overall setting that Visual Studio has created. This is going to be identical whether you created the project from Visual Studio Preview or from Visual Studio on Mac or just a stable version of Visual Studio. So don't worry if your IDE is different than mine right now. You may find that the app.xaml.cs file is open by default. Let's go ahead and close it. And let's just take a look at the Solution Explorer. The Solution Explorer on Windows, it's probably to your right, and on Mac is probably to your left. You can always rearrange the windows, but that is the default setting. Inside of the Solution Explorer, you will find the solution itself, which has 3 projects, or 4 in case you are supporting Windows. This is going to be the overall setting for all of the projects that we will be creating throughout the course. First, there will be a project that is sharing code. In this case, we have a shared project. In other cases, we may find a PCL project or a portable class library project. In the case of Xamarin Forms, this is where we will spend most of our time, creating both the user interface and coding the logic. Inside here, we will find 4 files, and you may say that you only see 2. But notice that both the app and the main page have a little arrow to the left. If you click on it, it expands and reveals another file. This has the same name except it is a C# file. You can identify that it is a C# file because the extension is CS. We will be taking a look at these files once we start working with them. For now, what you have to know is that the app class is the one that sets the entire application up. So for example, in here, you may establish the initial settings for the application, as well as some resources that you may need to use throughout the entire application. And the main page, like its name suggests, is going to be the first page to be launched and the first page that you will see when you open the application. Let's now navigate to the Android project. And if you have created Android applications before, you will see that the project is very similar to what you will see, for example, on Android Studio. In fact, the name of the files is going to be almost the same, just that you won't have Java files, you will have C# files. I do want you to take a look at this in case you are familiar with Android. Normally, on the resources folder, you would find an XML file that allows you to design the application. In this case, you do not find it because the entire design for the application is going to be created from the shared project. What you do find is the main activity. This file is the first one to be launched in the case on Android, and it may feel a little bit overwhelming right now. All I need you to focus on is this last line, the load application line, which notice is creating a new app. And remember that we do have an app file inside of the shared project. It is precisely to that file that this line of code is referring to. And it is going to be very important for you to remember this, because in the coming lectures, we will be using this line to change the functionality a little bit. Now let's take a look at the iOS project. And again, if you are familiar with creating iOS applications, you will see that the structure is very similar to what you will see, for example, on Xcode. Again, the name of the files is going to be very similar, but instead of having Swift or Objective-C files, you have C# files. In here, the file that I want you to set your focus a little bit on is on the app delegate file. And just like on Android, you will find a line of code that says load application, and it is also creating a new app. The idea behind this is that both the Android and the iOS projects are native projects that are going to be using the shared project along with the Xamarin Forms technology to fully create the application itself. So we have taken a look at the 3 projects. We have noticed that both the Android and the iOS projects are calling a file that is inside of the shared project. And inside of the shared project, we notice that we have the main page app, which we mentioned is going to have the design for the first page that is displayed to the user when the application is open. In the next lecture, we will start modifying this main page file to create the user interface ourselves.